After spending the night stranded in Haikou, sleeping outside a train station, eating street food I couldn't identify, and surviving with no SIM card, I finally made it to Hong Kong. And honestly, stepping off that plane felt like arriving in a different universe. Hong Kong hit me instantly, the noise, the energy, everything here moves fast. And you can either keep up, or you can get swallowed whole. And for one single night, I chose to stay somewhere legendary, or even infamous, depending on who you ask. Chungking Mansions. Place where every backpacker hears rumours about, maze-like hallways, budget rooms the size of closets, food from every corner of the world, and characters you couldn't script. It's chaotic, it's crowded, it's messy, but it's also one of the most fascinating buildings on the planet. Before heading off to Shanghai the next day, I spent 24 hours diving straight into the heart of Hong Kong, wandering the streets, eating whatever I could find, and trying to make sense of this incredible city in the little time I had. This is my one night experience in Hong Kong, after Haikou, before Shanghai. Let's begin.
So I didn't see you there. So I'm currently on a 2-week trip across Asia. I'm just at the start of it really. Currently in Hong Kong, but I've just been to Hainan. So the only Chinese I know is Ni Hao and Xixi. I'm not even saying those right. So I went to Hong Kong last year. I've done most of the tourist things in Hong Kong. Been up to Victoria Peak. I've done my Shenmue pilgrimage to Man Mo Temple. Been on the river. I've been at the highest cocktail bar in Hong Kong. I've been to Aberdeen. I've hiked around a little bit. And I've visited the remains of the Kowloon walled city.
Kowloon walled city was once the most densely populated place on Earth, a dark neon-lit labyrinth rising from the heart of Hong Kong. Imagine 50,000 people packed into a single block, living in a maze of stacked apartments, dripping pipes, and makeshift corridors where sunlight barely reached the ground. Originally a Chinese military port, it slowly transformed into a lawless micro-city controlled by the triads, where unlicensed dentists, secret factories, and noodle shops operated side by side. But despite its reputation, the walled city wasn't just crime and chaos. It was also a tight-knit community, families, shopkeepers, children playing on rooftops, neighbours looking out for each other in a world built almost entirely by hand. By the late 1980s, the walled city had become a symbol of both resilience and urban anarchy. In 1993, it was finally demolished and replaced with the peaceful park that stands today. But its legacy lives on, a reminder of what happens when humanity creates its own world in the shadows.
Went out in Lan Kwai Fong last night. I don't even know what that place is called, Lan Kwai Fong. Had a few beers there.
I started the evening watching a junk boat glide across Victoria Harbour before taking a ferry from Kowloon over to Hong Kong Island. I headed to Lan Kwai Fong for a few beers. It reminded me of one of the strangest nights I've ever had here. So I travelled to Hong Kong the year before, and I also stayed in Chungking Mansions. After a night out in Lan Kwai Fong, I got back to Chungking Mansions around 2 AM and ended up drinking with a few people hanging around outside the entrance. One local guy decided to take me back to Lan Kwai Fong in a taxi, and that was the last thing I remember. I woke up the next day, 4 PM on a Sunday, inside the cupboard of an empty, unfurnished office 8 floors above the clubs. My trainers were neatly placed beside me. My socks were gone. I had no clue how I got there. When I left, the entire building was full of Filipino women partying in the afternoon clubs below, like it was midnight. And the weirdest part, the office door was locked from the inside, so whoever put me there made sure I was tucked away safely before vanishing away with my socks. Hong Kong never gives me a normal night out.
It's only a 1-day trip in Hong Kong for me at this point. I've got another day on my return route back to the UK. I went to Shanghai this evening. I'm staying in a lovely hotel in Hong Kong in Chungking Mansions, which is where I always stay in Hong Kong.
Chungking Mansions was built in the early 1960s as a mixed residential and commercial block, but it quickly became something very different. By the 1980s and 90s, it had transformed into one of Hong Kong's most chaotic multicultural hubs, a maze of cheap guest houses, curry restaurants, phone shops, and traders from every corner of the world. For years it had a reputation for being wild and unpredictable, dodgy elevators, improvised wiring, and a mix of backpackers, migrant workers, and entrepreneurs all packed into one vertical mini-city. It even became known as the most globalised building in Asia, because people from over 100 nationalities pass through its doors every day. Today, Chungking Mansions is still rough around the edges, but it's safer, more regulated, and still one of the most fascinating places in Hong Kong, a place where you can find the best curry in the city, a cheap room, and stories you won't get anywhere else.
I'm staying in Holiday Guest House, 6th floor of Chungking Mansions. It's on booking.com and recommend it. It's the best room I've stayed in Chungking Mansions. So my next bit of China is going to be Shanghai, Chengdu, and then Chongqing before I fly off to Osaka. But I'm doing 1 day each, transport myself from place to place to place, and it's going to be quite intense. I'll show you around my lovely room. Hello, I didn't see you there. So this is my sleep system in Hong Kong. We've got 2 beds. So this is Chungking Mansions. This is the Holiday Guest House. You can go on booking.com. It's cost me £25 a night. This is actually one of the biggest rooms that you can probably get in your typical guest house in Chungking Mansions. Got a nice TV on the wall. Got a floating fridge. You've got a little table. You've got yourself a couple of little beds. And a towel. You have a nice plug socket, very tasteful pillow, and then with every kind of room that you get in Chungking Mansions is a toilet and shower combo. So most rooms that I've booked in Chungking Mansions have been, you get a bed, then you just turn it, there's your toilet, shower, and then that's pretty much your entire room. But this is actually one of the biggest, most spacious rooms that I've stayed in Chungking Mansions. People don't like staying here because it's got a kind of seedy reputation. I think it's built in the 60s. It's a complete death trap. All I would say is don't use the stairs of the building because they use this they're full of exposed wires and rats. If you get a good guest house owner, they really look after their places. Not particularly flashy. Book ahead, find ones with good reviews, and the hosts of these places are all really good. And it's a lot better value than getting a hostel in Hong Kong, because you're paying for one of these rooms a night, you're paying around £20 to £40 max. Whereas if you get a hostel in Hong Kong, you're going to be paying upwards of £50 to maybe £70 for a 3-tier bunk bed. And the location of Chungking Mansions is right in the sort of heart of Kowloon, right by the 5-minute walk from the bay. It's right in the centre of Kowloon. You can't really get a better location. It's the closest you're going to feel to the old Kowloon walled city vibes. It feels very retro. It feels quite slightly dangerous and edgy, but it's not really. It was mortalised in the film Chungking Express by Wan Chai, I think his name was. It plays a lot of the Prince Charles Cinema in London. I need to go see it. That is my hotel room review. The last thing my tourist bucket list in Hong Kong is to go visit the Monster Building, which we're about to do this morning.
For my final hours in Hong Kong, I headed to one of the city's most surreal landmarks, the Monster Building, I'd seen photos online for years, but nothing compares to walking into the courtyard for the first time. It sits in Quarry Bay, tucked between modern glass towers, but as soon as you step inside, you feel like you're wandering into a completely different world. The building rises straight up around you, walls of concrete, metal and air conditioners stacked so tightly that they almost block out the sky. Tens of thousands of windows, clotheslines hanging like vines, and the soft echo of life happening somewhere above. Around 10,000 people live inside this superstructure, yet down in the middle of it, everything feels strangely still. Standing there, surrounded on all sides, you get a sense of what Hong Kong used to be: dense, improvised, full of energy and struggle and community, all layered on top of each other. I grabbed a quick iced coffee from one of the little cafes tucked under the building, mostly just an excuse to sit for a minute and take it all in, and get a little bit of air conditioning. This is one of the what you call Instagram influencer photo cafes where you pay about £10, you get a iced coffee marketed as minus 87 degrees Celsius, and it's quite nice, but it wasn't worth a tenner. After that, I made my way over to Wan Chai for a last dim sum before my flight. There was something quite comforting about ending my trip at a Hong Kong dim sum place. The steam rising off the bamboo baskets, the chatter of locals bouncing off the tiled walls, and watching me struggle massively using my chopsticks to eat this stuff. As a typical stupid Brit broad, I smashed them all in one mouthful each, made my excuses and then left. Then it was straight to the airport for my flight to Shanghai. As the plane took off, the skyline faded behind the clouds, the harbour, the ferries, Lan Kwai Fong, the chaos of Chungking Mansions, and other bunts of the building, all squeezed into 24 hours. Hong Kong always leaves you with something unexpected. Even in the last few hours, it finds a way to surprise you.